Our next speaker is a serial entrepreneur and business strategist with more than 20 years of corporate and small business experience. Her thought leadership around diversity and inclusion, social media strategy, and personal branding has been featured on the national stage, including Fortune magazine and as an on air contributor to CNBC. As the founder of Douglas Alexandra, she shares strategies for success and lessons learned from her failures. Friends, let's welcome Shelley Willingham.
Happy New Year, everyone. I am so glad that you are able to join us for this Reinvention road trip with Jess Everhart. It's just been an amazing journey. I'm so glad 2020 is over. I don't know about you, but I am ready to jump into 2021 and do some amazing things. And so you just heard from Esther about personal branding, which was an amazing, amazing talk. And hopefully you can take some of those nuggets that she shared and help you in your journey to reinventing yourself this year. And today I just wanted to talk to you for a little bit about my story. And I'm going to share some tips with you around social media that will be very helpful in your journey. But I want to share with you in the context of how I used it to really reinvent myself. So I'm talking about success not being final and failure not being fatal. That's actually one of my favorite quotes from Winston Churchill. And I lived that. That's exactly what happened to me. I felt like I was on top of the world. I had started a business that was going super, super well. Things were amazing, making tons of money, bought my dream house, dream car, dream life, except for the husband. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But everything seemed to be going my way. And then in 2007, when the market kind of turned, I lost everything. And I'm not talking about rich people broke, like down to my last $100,000. I'm talking about broke people broke down to my no dollars. So I lost a major client and I committed to still paying my staff because they committed to me and I felt like I had a responsibility. So I cashed out my retirement, cashed out my savings to make sure they were taken care of for as long as I could do it. And then when there was no money left, there was really nothing else I could do. So we just moved into our dream home and I was living in this house for 2 years without paying a mortgage, making a mortgage payment. I was driving a Mercedes, trying to make sure I parked in the garage every night because I hadn't made a car payment because I couldn't. I didn't have anything left. I remember driving that Mercedes to social services to get food stamps to feed my family and parking in the back because I didn't want anybody to see to think, oh, she's trying to game the system. Here she is driving a Mercedes and she's trying to get food stamps. And when that experience happened for me, that shook me to my core because that wasn't supposed to happen to me, right? I did all the right things. I went to the right schools, came from a great family. How did I get here? And it forced me to really take a hard look at my life and examine my values and what was important to me. And at the time, I had to admit that examination of self was not easy to do. And when I look back on everything that happened, I would not actually change a thing because without that experience, I would not be who I am today. And I'm really liking who I am today. During that time, I was building a great business, but I was chasing money. At the time, my son was 3 years old. And I can remember on Sundays, I would get my suitcase because I travel pretty much almost every week from like Sunday to Friday. Get my suitcase and he would stand in the doorway and he would just cry. He didn't have words to say what he was feeling. And I convinced myself, you know what, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for him. And so I'm traveling all over. I'm chasing this money at the expense of my family. So I had a marriage that was falling apart. I had my child who I was not spending time with. And then all of these things go away. And I have to take a look and say, okay, how are we going to do this differently? So I remember when I was at my darkest. So like really dark. So living, you're living in this house that I know I can't afford, that I'm about to get kicked out of any day and trying to figure out what's next for me. And everything that I tried to do that really wasn't aligned with who I was becoming never worked out. And I didn't notice that until looking back on it and realizing, okay, God was lining me up for something very different. I could have rebuilt my business in a way that would have probably made me do a lot of the things that I was doing before. Tons of traveling, chasing money, but God did not allow me to do it in that way. And I did make a decision that I have to be around for my child. So whatever I do is going to have to be something that is not like that. And then I had to ask myself, well, Shelley, why were you chasing that money? Why did you feel like you had to have the most expensive house and the most expensive car and all of those things? Why did those things matter to you? And I, again, taking that look in the mirror and saying, gosh, I didn't think I was that person that cared about what people thought. But clearly I did. Why was I staying in a marriage that was not working for me? Because I didn't want to get divorced. My parents weren't divorced. I don't have divorce like in my family. That would be something else that people will look at and say, that's not what you're supposed to do. But I realized all of those things that I was holding on to were keeping me in bondage. When I was going through these things, I've told this story before, and people have heard it and reached out to my parents and said, how could that have happened to her? I mean, I know you all, you would have helped her. I didn't even tell my parents. Most people didn't know. I was so ashamed about what was happening. Success is not final, but it is not, but failure is not fatal. And so during that time, I remember sitting outside on my screen porch and just praying and meditating and thinking and reflecting and trying to figure out, after I got over the anger of how could this happen to me and the ego, really taking a look to see, okay, what am I supposed to learn here from this? And I can remember when I would sit outside, when I really felt like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know how this is going to change. I've lost my business. My marriage is falling apart. How do I get through this? I remember I would always see a yellow butterfly. And to this day, whenever I see a yellow butterfly, I take that as a sign that everything is going to be okay. And I would even see this butterfly in the winter. So I knew that was how God communicated with me. And the butterfly would always show up at the time when I thought I was really about to lose it. And so when I thought about this whole notion of what am I going to do different, I had to release some things. I had to release the need for having the best house, the most expensive house, all of those things that I thought made me look successful. I had to come to terms with the fact that success is not about what I have, because any of that can go away at any time, but it's about peace of mind for me. I had to be okay with the fact, get divorced. If you're not happy, get divorced. Why are you staying in something that's making you miserable? And when I did all of those things and made all of those decisions, which were not easy, and I'm not saying that they are, if there are things in your life right now that you know do not serve you, no, it's not easy just to walk away. But until the pain is so much staying in it that you're willing to take the risk to step out of it, you're going to stay there. But if you're watching this, I don't want you to stay there as long as I did. It's scary, absolutely. But what's on the other side, and I know this sounds like a cliche, is so much better. So what I found when I stopped caring about money, guess what? It showed up. When I stopped chasing things and worrying about what people thought, the first time that I told my story, I was mortified because I was so ashamed. I thought about, again, my friends, my social circles, all of these things. If they knew the truth, what would they think? There were so many women that came up to me and said, I identify with this part of your story or that part of the story, whatever it may be. I identify with that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So sharing my testimony and being transparent about who I was and what I was going through, that actually set people free. And that set me on the path to understanding that sometimes what happens to us in this life is not about us. That's where that ego comes in. Why is this happening to me? Not me. This is not supposed to happen to me. We are all connected in this world in one way or another. We are all here to help and serve one another. And the more that we do that, the more we can help people get what they want. That sounds cliche too. But the more we do that, the more we will get what we want. When I walked away from a marriage that was no longer serving me, when I decided to, you know what, I'm going to really do what I want to do. I'm not going to get into another business because I think it's going to make me a ton of money. I'm just going to do it because I'm passionate about it and want to help. And so when I thought about my experience with this company that I mentioned, it was very successful. It got me in Fortune magazine. I was doing great. And I started it from nothing. So I could tell people, how do you start a business from absolutely nothing and build it to something amazing? But I can also tell you all the mistakes I made and what not to do so that you don't lose it. So I had all that intellectual capital and emotional capital that I gained, this grit, this muscle that I built from entrepreneurship that I had to share with others. And so I decided to start coaching entrepreneurs and helping them build businesses, identify gaps and deficits in what they were doing, figuring out how to get to the next level. And that was so amazingly rewarding for me. And so this week, I started doing this 2016, 2017. And so in the early 2000s, social media wasn't as big as it is right now or during this time. And so I had to figure out, okay, I've got to jump into this space. So what do I do? And so I look at people that are using social media and using it in so many of the wrong ways and having all these unrealistic expectations about what social media can do for you. And I just wanted to talk to you today about a few things you can do if you're in the process of reinventing yourself, if you're in the process of figuring out your personal brand, who you are, who you want to be, how to leverage social media to help you do that. So when Esther talks about personal branding, that is so very important. And I know you hear all the time about being authentic, right? Being true to you. But you can't be authentic if you don't know who you are. And so that experience that I had, losing everything and having to rebuild everything from absolutely nothing, that showed me who I was, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I had to address it. I had to deal with it. I knew to get to the next step and to get to the next level. And so sometimes I'm scrolling through social media and I see all these people that are trying to be so authentic, but they're trying to be so authentic that they look the same as everybody else, if you know what I'm saying. Everybody's dancing in their videos and putting, doing this and doing that. And that's okay if that's who you are. But if you're doing that because you think that's what you have to do to get noticed on social media, that's not the right reason to do it. So that's not my personality. So you're not going to see me posting a ton of selfies. You're not going to see me, which is fine. If that's what you do, that's you. Absolutely do it. But you're not going to see me doing that. I'm staying very true to who I am and what is comfortable for me. And as a result of my presence on social media and how I was showing up, I got a call mid 2020 from CNBC. They've been following, they like, hey, would love to have you on a show. And in 2020, I was on CNBC 4 times. All because I was showing up in a way that was authentic and true to me. And so on social media, remember, this is how you're presenting yourself to the world, right? And in an authentic way, depending on how you're using social media, if you're using it to build your business, if you're using it just to build your personal brand, whatever that may be, you need to think about everything that you're doing. First thing you don't want to do is buy leads or buy likes or buy follows. That's so inauthentic, right? So don't get caught up in vanity metrics. That's a huge mistake I see people getting caught up in. And a vanity metric is that metric that doesn't put money in the bank for you, right? Or doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. So you have 100,000 followers, but they're all people, have nothing to do with what, they can't help. They're not your target audience. They're not anyone you want to partner with. They're just random followers, bots, whatever. But you feel good when you look at your phone because I've got 100,000 followers. That's ego. And ego doesn't put any money in the bank if we're trying to build businesses. Ego doesn't help you move to the next level. It actually stops you, right? So don't get caught up in vanity metrics. When you're posting and connecting with people, don't just post and then ghost, right? Meaning post and you don't interact and don't talk to people. Build relationships. Social media is about being social. Comment on people's comments. Reply to them. Make sure that you're not only following people that you feel like can do something for you, but people you can learn from. Maybe your competition in a particular space, or someone you want to partner with, or someone who could sponsor an event you're planning. Build relationships. Build relationships. How can you stand out in this space that's so full of so much noise and be different and just be you? And don't try so hard to be different that, again, you're looking the same like everybody else, right? Your being different is just being who you are because it's just you. And I use social media as a way to tell my story, very transparent, as a way to talk about how I can help others. I was doing a lot of serving, not a lot of selling. And in turn, what happened was it helped to support my personal brand and help to catapult me into a lot of the things that I'm doing now. So when you're thinking about social media as a strategy, always remember, be very authentic. Don't think of it as what you can get from it, but how you can help and serve people. Trust your gut. Do what feels right. Don't look at vanity metrics. It's not about, would you rather have 100 people that are fully engaged with you following you than 100,000 fake people following you? And think about how you're showing up everywhere online. If you're posting something that doesn't support your personal brand, doesn't support what you believe in, think twice before posting it. Is it something that you're going to look at and say, "Ugh, I probably shouldn't have done that"? Then don't do it. We all have a point in our life when we have to make a decision about what's next. And I'm hoping that none of you have to experience what I did, having to rebuild from absolutely nothing. But if you did, and if you do, and if you are going through that right now, know that you can get through this. It is possible. It is okay. It is not final. It is not death. It is not going to kill you, right? It's going to make you stronger. I promise. And you can use everything, all of these things to help catapult you to the next step. None of it is wasted. It's all a part of your history. It's all a part of your story. And all of it is valuable. So again, I wish you a happy, happy, happy new year. 2021 is going to be your best year yet. How do I know? I can feel it. Trust me on this one. Thanks so much for joining.